In a house built on whispers and secrets, they opened a door they were never meant to see. Two curious children, one quiet night, and a ritual that marked them forever. What was summoned could not be sent back. Now, decades later, Edith lives a quiet life, charming, warm, alone. But some guests don't know when to leave. He thought it was her, but something else came in. Her brother still waits in the dark. She promised to protect him, to care for him, to feed him. And for 40 years, she kept her promise. She's been feeding her brother for 40 years. Some family secrets should stay buried.
Chapter 1. A Smile and a Shadow. She looked radiant in the kind of way that made time seem dishonest. Not youthful. No, that would be too vulgar. But polished, elegant, like something timeless had been poured into human skin and taught how to smile. Edith stirred her tea slowly as the man across from her, handsome, laughing too easily, lifted his glass in a toast. "To 2 months," he said, grinning. "Can you believe it? I feel like I've known you forever." She tilted her head and returned the smile. "Careful, Mark. That sounds dangerously close to sentimentality." He laughed. "Guilty. I just enjoy this. Us. You." Edith's eyes flicked to the restaurant window. The sky was beginning to darken. She masked her tension with a sip of Earl Grey, letting the bitter warmth coat the truth she didn't say. Outside, the world was indifferent, but inside, across the linen tablecloth and candle-lit silverware, she was playing God with a ticking clock. They walked, arm in arm, toward her home, the laughter between them softening into the hush of night. Her house stood apart from the others, old colonial bones cloaked in ivy, and the kind of silence that swallowed neighbourhoods, a place forgotten, chosen, needed. As Mark pulled into the gravel driveway, he looked at her with gentle insistence. 2 months, Edith. I've waited. I've been patient. I'm not asking for much. Just a nightcap. A chance to see whether mysterious Edith really lives." She paused. A slight tremor touched her hands before she folded them. "My house is delicate," she said carefully. "Things creak. Smells linger, and I value my privacy more than most." "Come on," he said, smiling. "I promise not to judge the wallpaper." Her hesitation was real, but so was the decision. She had chosen this long ago, with a breath deeper than it needed to be. She nodded. "But just one drink," she said, "and no wandering." The inside was better than expected. Old-fashioned, yes, but clean. Everything in its place. A kind of faded beauty. Dust curled in corners like forgotten thoughts, and beneath the faint scent of lavender, something else lurked. Decay wears perfume well. They sat in the parlour with glasses of red wine and stories that circled carefully around each other. Mark spoke of college, Edith of art, both of them pretending that time was kind and people were simple. She laughed, and even that was perfect. Controlled, delicate.
"I hope you like it. I chose a special bottle."
Later, when the hour grew thick and the bottle grew thin, she touched his hand. "I should change," she said softly. "I'll meet you upstairs." He nodded eagerly, finishing the last of his drink before climbing the creaking staircase, unaware of the shift in air, of the way the house seemed to lean in, to listen. He entered the bedroom. It was dark. Only the outline of the bed, the armoire, and a single curtained window stood against the night. He lay down, half dreaming, half expecting. There was rustling, the soft click of a closet door, the whisper of clothes slipping off or on. He smiled in the dark. "Take your time," he called, "but not too long." The rustling stopped, then footsteps, soft, wrong. She stepped into view, or what he thought was her. Same robe, same long hair. But then the smile came, and it was not her smile. Too wide, too knowing. He blinked as the figure moved closer. The moonlight caught the face. Not Edith. The man, thin, rotting, his skin stretched like wet paper over bone, his eyes sunken, the mouth too full of teeth, his entire frame twitching with a hunger that had waited far too long. Mark tried to scream. The figure lunged. Chapter 2. The night of the pact. The wallpaper was different back then. Blue with little clouds. Edith remembered tracing them with her finger while the chanting began below. She was 8, and her brother, Julian, only 5. His hand was warm in hers, but restless. Every Friday, their parents told them the same thing. Lock the door. Do not open it. Do not come out until morning. They obeyed, of course. Children do, at first. Tonight was no different, or so it seemed. They sat cross-legged on the floor, whispering under the covers of a flashlight's weak glow. Edith was reading to him, but he wasn't listening. His gaze kept darting to the door. "It's starting again," Julian said. "Don't listen to it," Edith replied. "Just keep your eyes on the book." Below them, the moaning had begun, low and guttural. Then came the rhythmic gongs, the metallic clang of cymbals, and the strange syllables neither child could ever repeat properly. But worst of all were the voices, not the chants, but the others, the whispers that slipped between the words, ones that didn't sound quite human. Julian stood. "I want to see." "No," Edith said sharply. "You know what they said." "I just want to peek." "Come on, Edith, please." She shook her head. He pressed closer, tugging her sleeve. "Just one look. I'll be quick. You can stay here. I need to know." She hesitated. For a child, knowledge was a kind of rebellion, but for Edith, obedience had always been safer than truth. Still, she loved him. Just one look. The lock clicked softly. The hallway was dark but familiar. The stairs creaked beneath their bare feet. They moved slowly, crouching low, peering between the banisters into the living room below. What they saw would mark them for life. 12 people stood in a circle, robed in black with hoods drawn. Candles of dark wax burned around them, thick smoke curling like fingers through the air. Strange symbols, drawn in red chalk or something worse, adorned the walls and floor. A heavy, rhythmic chanting filled the room. In the centre, on a stone table, lay a figure in ceremonial robes, but the hood had slipped. Its face was wrong. It was vaguely human, vaguely. Its skin was cracked and crimson like old lava. Its eyes glowed with a sick yellow heat, and its teeth were too long, too many. Veins throbbed along its temples like roots. Julian gasped, and the thing's head turned toward them. Then all 12 robed heads followed. The chanting stopped. Everything stopped. They scrambled back up the stairs in a panic, tripping over each other, shoving one another through the doorway. The lock clicked behind them. Edith backed into the far corner of the room, heart hammering like a war drum. But it was too late. Their parents were already there. The door burst open. Their mother, normally so serene, looked like a statue about to crack. Their father's eyes blazed not with anger, but fear. "Who unlocked the door?" he demanded. Neither child answered. "We told you," the mother hissed. "You were never to see. Now the pact is broken. Now we must pay, and so must one of you." "No," Edith said, trembling. Her father's voice turned colder. "Which one of you led the other?" Julian opened his mouth. "I just wanted to look." Edith interrupted. "It was him." Julian turned, shocked. "Edith, he begged me. He said he had to see." "You said yes," he cried. Their parents loomed larger than life in the doorway, shadows stretching like arms. "We cannot stop it," their mother whispered. "The price must be paid. Blood for blood. Sight for sight." They seized Julian by the arms. "No!" he screamed. "Edith, don't let them." She stayed frozen. Her feet wouldn't move. Her hands covered her ears. Her face turned away, but her eyes still saw everything. They dragged him down the stairs. He kicked, cried, pleaded, but the robed figures waited silently. As they reached the stone table, the thing at its centre sat up. It turned to face the boy fully now, its body no longer still. It breathed, chest rising in slow, unnatural pulses. Its arms opened. An embrace. Julian's voice cracked with one final, pleading shriek. "No, please, I didn't." The creature wrapped him in its arms and smiled. A sound came from his mouth, not a word but a vibration that filled the air like electricity. The candle flames flickered, and then they went out. Chapter 3. The Gentle Knife. Graham wasn't desperate. Not yet. But he was tired. Tired of conversations that went nowhere. Of profiles filtered to falseness. Of smiling at people who only spoke about themselves. So when he found Edith, something shifted. Her photo wasn't polished. It was quiet. Natural. She looked thoughtful. A woman in her 40s with that rare thing. Presence. No filters. No attempt to impress. Her message was even simpler. "I don't like small talk, but I do enjoy sincerity. If that's too much, don't reply." Graham smiled when he read it. He wrote back. And so it began. Weeks of slow, careful messages that skipped past the nonsense. They spoke of old books, quiet cafes, candlelight over convenience. They spoke of solitude, not loneliness, just space. Edith told him she'd been alone for years, that she had a brother once, long ago, that she lived in a house too big for one person, and didn't mind the quiet, but sometimes it ached in strange places. One evening, after a long pause in conversation, she wrote, "I'm not sure why I'm doing this, but I suppose I miss the sound of another human voice." And so they met. It was lunch, neutral ground, a small rustic restaurant tucked between two forgotten buildings, wooden beams, low ceilings. Time held its breath. Graham arrived early. She came exactly on time. Edith wore black, not in mourning, but in grace. She smiled when she saw him, and for a moment she let herself forget, pretended she was simply a woman meeting a man, that she could be someone else. "Graham," she said, offering her hand, "you're taller than your photo." "You're more intimidating than yours," he replied. They laughed, the kind of laugh that doesn't echo but hums. Soft, familiar. They ordered wine, a meal. The conversation moved easily, but something in her eyes kept flicking, not away, but inward, as if she were checking in on something hidden, caged, whispering. "You live alone, then?" he asked. Sipping his glass, she nodded. "It's peaceful." "Ever get lonely?" "Loneliness isn't the absence of people," she said. "It's the absence of meaning. Most people add noise, not substance." He smiled. "That sounds rehearsed." "It is," she admitted. "Because it's true." She paused, swirled her wine, looked past him, into herself. "Graham, have you ever done something again and again, knowing it was wrong, but convincing yourself it was necessary?" He blinked. "You mean like morally wrong, or just bad habits?" She smiled faintly. "Maybe both." He shrugged. "We all justify things. Some people lie to their spouse. Others look away when something ugly happens. Some of us stay silent when we should speak." "And does that make us monsters?" she asked. There was a sharpness in the way she said monsters, like it had fangs. "I don't know," he said. "Maybe it just makes us human." Edith looked at him, really looked, and her heart cracked, because for a moment she wanted to believe that she wasn't a monster, that what she did, what she had to do, was some twisted act of devotion, not damnation. But it was a lie, a useful one her brother had stopped believing long ago. They left the restaurant, walking slower than before. Outside, the wind was picking up. Autumn was bleeding into the world, leaves whispering secrets as they fell. Graham turned to her. "Would you like to do this again?" She opened her mouth. The word "no" sitting there, waiting, but it didn't come out. She nodded instead. "Next time," she said softly, "come to mine." And she smiled, the kind of smile that made time seem dishonest. Chapter 4. The Price. The ceiling groaned, then it banged, then it screamed, "Edith! Edith! Hungry Edith!" She slammed the teacup against the counter so hard it cracked. Porcelain shattered like glass nerves. Her breath came shallow, jagged, caught between guilt and rage. "I know," she roared at the ceiling. The sound of her voice rang through the old house like a bell tolling for the damned. Upstairs, something shuffled, dragged, banged again. A sharp metallic clang, a pipe, a chain, something alive, or once alive, now reduced to raw need. She stared at the cracked teacup, her hands trembling. Her face was pale, her lips drawn tight. Then she turned, and the house pulled her inward, down into memory. The air was red that night, not with light, but with something that stained the soul. She was 8. She stood in the corner of the living room, small, silent, forgotten, watching as her parents surrounded Julian. He sat in a chair, slack-jawed and vacant. His eyes flickered, but saw nothing. He twitched from time to time, muttering fragments of language no one had taught him. "Sometimes," he hissed. Her mother knelt in front of him, brushing hair from his face. "It's not his fault," she whispered. Her father stood with his hands behind his back, as though standing at a funeral. It was the interruption. The ritual was broken. Now the price must be paid. Edith stepped forward. "What do you mean?" They both turned to her. "You saw too much," her father said gently. "That cannot be undone. Her mother's smile was brittle. The creature. It doesn't kill, not right away. It marks, it binds. You interrupted the summoning, and now it claims balance. What does it want? Edith asked, barely above a whisper. Her mother stood. Her voice was calm. It wants us. And you. Edith shook her head. No. It will take us, her father said. Tonight, that is the price, but you. He walked toward her, knelt. You have a choice. Julian twitched. He began to hum, low and discordant, then louder. Hungry, hungry. Edith. Her father's hand rested on her shoulder. You must feed him now. Keep him alive. Satisfy what it made of him. If you don't, if he starves, it comes back. Her mother continued, and this time it won't just take us. It will take both of you. There is no peace in that place, Edith. Only burning forever. Tears welled in her eyes. I don't want this, she said. No one does, her father said. But we all chose in our own way. Now it's your turn. Julian's voice rose again. Hungry. Feed me. Then, from somewhere else, something answered. A deep, low echo. A sound like molten stone cracking. A wordless pressure that filled the room. Her mother looked at her one last time. Either you feed the curse, or you join it. Then they turned, hand in hand, and walked into the back room where the altar had once been. Edith moved to follow, but when she opened the door, they were gone. Nothing remained, not even ash. They had prepared everything. Letters had been written, accounts emptied, ownership of the house transferred to something untraceable. Even a trust fund, small but lasting, had been set aside. Their vanishing wasn't chaos, it was choreography. And the house, it was no longer a home, not really. Something inside it protected the lie. The demon's presence, still bound to her brother, cast a veil of forgetfulness over the place. People nearby noticed the house, but never enough to wonder. No one knocked. No one came. It simply existed, like rot beneath the floorboards. At first, she tried to feed him scraps. Raw meat, bone, offcuts from the butcher. He choked it down barely, but as he grew, something changed. He stopped digesting food entirely. He'd spit up flesh like it was poison, unless it was fresh, warm, human. The first time she fed him properly, truly, she didn't sleep for 3 days. She thought she'd be sick, thought she'd go mad, but she didn't. She lived, and that was the real horror. She blinked, present again. The ceiling groaned. Edith, Edith, I'm hungry. She walked to the sink, poured the last of the tea down the drain. Outside, wind rattled the window panes. Inside, her heart screamed, not for what she had to do, but for the fact that she would do it again.
For those who connect with the words of Professor Shadow, for those the stories touch, deeper. The Vault holds more: full audiobooks, secret lore, the Becoming the Professor course, the Eldritch Codex. New tales added weekly, only for those ready to go deeper. Click the join button below and unlock the Vault.
Chapter 5. A Man with Flowers. He arrived just after dusk, a bottle of red in one hand, a modest bouquet in the other. Lilies. Fitting. Edith watched him from the window for a moment before opening the door. For a man nearing 50, he moved with a certain softness. Not timid, but careful. He smiled as she answered, and for a fleeting second, she felt the kind of warmth that terrifies you when you know you're about to do something cold. "These are for you," he said, offering the flowers like a peace treaty. "They're lovely," she replied, meaning it. They sat in the parlour. She'd made a light meal. Goat's cheese tartlets, olives, bread, a simple soup. Everything tidy, everything forgettable. But Graham wasn't. There was something different tonight. He wasn't charming, not in the way most men try to be. He was still, present, observant in that way people rarely are anymore. And as the wine sank deeper into their veins, so did the words. He leaned back, studying her with quiet eyes. "You know," he said, "most people spend their lives wearing masks they didn't choose, pretending to like things they don't, pretending to be someone they're not, because they're terrified of being alone with who they really are." She didn't speak. They work jobs they hate, stay in marriages that kill them slowly, swallow opinions that burn their throat, all to survive a life they never consented to. He sipped his wine. "But that's not living. That's preserving." She looked at him. "And what's the alternative?" she asked. "Freedom," he said. "To live your truth, even if no one understands it." Edith tilted her head, her voice quieter now. "But what if the truth leads you somewhere you don't want to be? What if being who you are means being chained forever, alone in darkness?" He leaned forward, serious now. "Then you choose. Either lie every day and die a little more each morning, or walk into the fire and live as you, even if it burns." There was silence, not awkward, just weighty. She looked at him then, like really looked at him. He meant it, all of it, and for the first time in decades, Edith wanted not to be understood, but to be forgiven. The floor above them thudded, a low dragging sound. Then, bang! Graham glanced up. "I thought you lived alone." She froze for just a moment, the length of a blink. "I do," she said smoothly. "It's probably my cat. He gets restless when he's hungry." Bang! A heavier crash. She raised her voice, eyes toward the ceiling. "No, not yet." Graham laughed lightly. "The cat sounds like a teenager." She forced a smile. Then he looked at her, more seriously this time. "Can I stay?" It wasn't a come on. It wasn't even hopeful. It was honest. A man looking for company in a world too empty. Her heart twisted. She stood abruptly, collecting plates that didn't need collecting. Her movements were sharper now, less human. "No," she said too fast. "No, it's too early. Please, I need you to go." Graham blinked. "I didn't mean to." "Please," she said again, firmer. "Now." He stood slowly. "Did I do something wrong?" She shook her head, already guiding him towards the door. "You did something right. That's why you need to go." Confused, Graham stepped into the night. The wind had picked up. He turned to speak, but she'd already closed the door. Inside, she leaned her back against it. Her breath came out in shudders. Upstairs, the noise resumed. Bang, bang. Then, "Edith, hungry?" She closed her eyes and said nothing. Chapter 6. The weight of the door. The black bags hit the water with a hollow splash. One, then another, then another. Each sack sank slowly. Bloated shapes folding into the pond's muddy bottom, pulled down like secrets too heavy to float. Edith stood at the edge, soaked to the knees, dirt on her hands, her breath fogging in the cold morning air. The latest offering had been easy. A lonely man, quick to flatter, slower to notice the shadows behind her eyes. It hadn't been Graham. She told herself that mattered, but it didn't change the fact. She had fed the thing upstairs. Again. She wiped her hands on her skirt and turned to go back inside. Then a knock, soft, measured. She froze. Through the yellowed lace curtain she peered, and there he was. Graham! She gasped. Not in fear, but something worse. Recognition. He wasn't supposed to come back. He wasn't. She didn't open the door, but he stayed. She watched as he bent down, lifted the letterbox and spoke through the gap. Edith, if I said something wrong, I'm sorry. I was just being honest. I thought we had a connection. If we don't, if I imagined it, tell me, and I'll walk away. But if there's even a chance that this means something for both of us, I need to know. I don't want to throw it away, not if it could be real. She closed her eyes, heart pounding, then whispered back, barely audible, "Come back tonight." Later, as dusk blared across the windows, she sat against the door again, same as before, but her hands were shaking. What was she doing? Feeding the creature upstairs was one kind of death. Letting someone see her, truly see her, was another, and somehow she didn't know which terrified her more. Graham arrived just after nightfall, dressed plainly, eyes soft. He stepped inside. She poured tea. They sat. No wine this time, no illusion of comfort. Just two people, two masks, one slip-in. "I'm glad you let me in," he said quietly. "You shouldn't be," she replied. "This is the last time." He tilted his head. "Why?" She looked at her tea as though it could answer. "Because there can never be anything between us. You must never come here again." He didn't flinch. He just looked at her. "I felt a connection. I know you did too, and I think you're hiding something. Not from me, from yourself. You're wearing a mask that's destroying you." She looked up. "I care about you, Edith. I want you to live the life you want, the one that's yours. If that life is without me, fine. But I don't think it is. You're wearing a mask that stops you from being your full self. And that's what most people do. They die in layers, bit by bit, every time they lie about who they are." She tried to speak, to cut him off, but the words twisted. "I can't," she whispered. "I can't go on. I can't do this to you." She stood, pacing now, shaking. "You don't understand, Graham. If you stay, if we do this, you'll die. And I'll have killed you." Bang! The noise from above. Graham turned, startled. "Is someone else here?" She froze. "My brother," she said. "He's sick. I take care of him. That's why nothing can happen between us." "I didn't tell you," she added quickly, "because I didn't want to be judged." Graham's voice was calm. "Judged. Taking care of your family is one of the noblest things a person can do." He reached for her hand. "Let me meet him." "No," she snapped, too fast. "No, there can be nothing here for you. I lived to care for him. I promised my parents." Graham didn't pull back. He spoke slowly with certainty. "You're not telling me the truth, not all of it. But I believe this. Only the truth will free you from whatever hold this house, your brother, your past, has over you." He leaned closer. "To lie is to stop living. To speak the truth, no matter how painful, is to begin again. I have a friend. He might be able to help, but only if you let me in. Edith looked at him for a long time, and for the first time her eyes pleaded. Then another sound. Not just banging now. A voice. Edith. Not a child's voice. Not quite human. Just hungry. Chapter 7. A murmur in the heart. Edith. The voice oozed down the walls. Dry. Cracking. Like bone dragged across stone. She and Graham both looked up. The sound wasn't a call. It was a claim. She rose quickly, her movements sharp again, like shutters slamming closed. "You have to go," she said, not unkindly, but urgent. "I need to take care of him. He's very ill." Graham stood slowly, concern tightening in his brow. "Okay," he said, voice low. "But let's meet again. A couple of days. Lunch. Somewhere open." She nodded, barely. At the door he paused, looked back. "I'm here for you. You know that, right? Be yourself, Edith. Trust your truth. It's the only thing that sets us free." She said nothing. He stepped out into the dark. She closed the door behind him, and once again leaned against it. But this time the house didn't wait. The air shifted, grew heavy. The lights dimmed, not flickered, dimmed, like they were obeying. The hallway stretched as she walked, stairs yawning upward like a throat. She climbed slowly, every step an act of surrender. She reached the top, turned towards the attic door. Her hand reached for the latch, and the wall rippled, not with shadow, with reality itself. It peeled, flexed like a wound reopening, and from the tear, something looked through. A shape, red, tall, smoking with internal fire, horns like curling brands. Its eyes bled gold, and its mouth held no lips, just a grin made of heat and threat. It did not step forward. It leaned in, and its voice was not spoken. It was poured into her mind. "You fed me lies." Edith fell against the wall, gasping, hands to her temples. "You had food. You let it walk out the door. I smell your heart, Edith. I hear the tremble it makes when he speaks to you. I feel the murmur in your chest. That foolish warm thing. Hope." She shook her head violently. "No. There is no place for love in this house. There is no truth beyond the pact." The lights buzzed, the wallpaper peeled. From the floorboards, faint whispering rose like steam. "If you betray your vow, if you allow that man to breathe in your presence again, I will come for you, and I will take you to the place I took them." Images surged in her skull. Her mother screaming in flame, her father twisted into bone, eyes wide, never closing. "You will join them, chained, burning, forever." The voice dropped to a whisper, and it was somehow worse than the roar. "You do not get to be human anymore. You chose the pact. You are the pact." The rippling stopped. The hallway was just a hallway again, and behind the attic door, Julian wept. "Hungry." Edith fell to her knees and wept with him, not for what she'd done, but for the tiny, fluttering ember inside her that still wanted something more, and knew now that it was doomed. Chapter 8. The Pact and the Flame. The cafe was small, quiet, a forgotten corner of a town that had no use for noise. It smelled of roasted beans, old books, and autumn rain. A bell chimed softly as Edith stepped through the door. Graham was already there, waiting. He stood as she approached, but she raised a hand. Please don't." They sat. She folded her hands, composed as always, but her voice cracked just slightly at the edges, like something polished too many times. "I came to say goodbye." Graham blinked. "What?" "There can never be anything between us," she said. "I made a promise to my parents, a pact with my brother. I will never go back on that. I mustn't. I'm not someone who walks away from what I've sworn." He studied her quietly, then nodded. "Yes, I see that about you. It's part of why I'm drawn to you. That strength, that loyalty." She looked down. "I didn't come to explain. I came to end this. We can't be together," she continued. "This cannot happen. I wanted to tell you in person, to say it clearly." "I want you to be happy, Graham, but not with me, because if you're with me, I will take everything from you, everything that gives your life meaning, your peace, your truth." He leaned forward, voice low. "Then tell me the truth." She hesitated. Something in her jaw twitched. "I want to be free," she whispered. "I want to choose something for myself, but my wants mean nothing. I made a promise, one that cost me everything, and to break that promise would cost more." He shook his head. "No, what costs you everything is living a lie. You say your life is a promise, a pact, but you wear it like a cage. You pretend it's honor, but it's punishment. I see it." He reached for her hand. "I feel the connection between us. I felt it from the start. I don't care what you're hiding. I want to help you. We can walk away right now, but I'll never believe this wasn't meant to happen. I think we were meant to meet." She pulled her hand away. "No," she said, standing now. "It can never happen. Never." She stared at him, face pale, lips tight. "If we are together, we will die." Graham stood as well, confused. "You mean that in the way people say it, right? That you'll lose yourself or lose your freedom?" She looked at him like she pitied his innocence. "I mean it exactly as I said it." He stepped closer. "When two people are meant to be together, they don't kill life. They create it. They fight together. Two can stand where one would fall. You don't have to fight this alone." She looked at him. For a long, trembling moment, she just looked. Then she whispered, "Let's risk it." They walked together into the house. Rain tapped at the windows. The hallway waited, long and still. "Come," she said, her voice barely audible. As they reached the stairs, Graham asked quietly, "Are we finally going to meet your brother?" She paused on the first step. "No," she said, and kept climbing. At the top, she opened a door. A bedroom, dim, softly lit, quiet. "Wait here," she said. "I just want to freshen up." Graham smiled gently. "Of course." She disappeared into the bathroom. A moment passed, then another. Then the door creaked open. Graham turned, and he saw her. Hair down, eyes softer, unarmored. She stepped into the room and said nothing, and he understood. They embraced, not like lovers, like people trying to hold back time itself. The room faded. The world faded. Only the choice remained. Later, as she lay beside him, eyes open in the dark, she whispered, "I've just killed us both." Graham looked over, confused. "What?" She sat up slowly. "I broke the pact, and now he's coming." Chapter 9. The price must be paid. Graham sat up in bed, confused. What do you mean? Killed us both? The floor trembled. Not a shake, a pulse. The walls shivered. The ceiling groaned. Then, a sound. Not thunder, not wind. Something deeper, like the world itself had started whispering. A low hum vibrated through the air, growing louder, deeper, until the mirror cracked and the light bulb flickered, then shattered. A seam opened in the center of the room. Not a hole, not a flame, but a void, a vertical wound in space, where blackness poured inward, swallowing the light. From it came a voice. The pact is broken. It was not shouted. It was declared. And now a price must be paid. It laughed, cold, hungry, not mad, patient. Did you think the pact was ever meant to be kept? It was designed to break. I fed the hunger. I stirred the guilt. I twisted the boy and rotted your heart so that this day would come. I have waited for it. And now, the feast begins. The attic door creaked open. Julian stepped out. His eyes were blank. His skin was grey, thinned like paper. His hands hung loose at his sides. He didn't look around, didn't pause. He simply walked, straight toward the void. "Julian!" Edith shouted. He didn't respond. He stepped into the darkness and vanished. "Now," the voice whispered. "You." Graham stood, eyes wide, but not screaming, not panicking, just stunned. "Edith, what the hell is going on?" She turned slowly, as though gravity were heavier now. "This is my pact," she said. "The one I made long ago. I'm not who you think I am, Graham. I've killed. I've murdered innocent people. Not once, but over and over." Her voice trembled. "I fed that thing to keep Julian alive. If I hadn't met you, I would have kept going until my bones turned to dust." "You didn't just save me," she added, eyes locked on his. "You saved all the others I would have taken." Graham stepped toward her. "You don't have to go. We can fight this. There must be a way." "But she does." The voice was everywhere, in the walls, in the floorboards, in the marrow of their bones. Edith stood, steady now. She took a step toward the void. "No!" Graham reached for her. She paused, turned to him one last time. He spoke, desperation turning to fury. "This was never you. You've been a puppet your whole life. A mask your parents put on you. A leash that thing tightened. This isn't your choice. It's theirs." Tears burned at her eyes. I had to obey them. I had to obey it. I had to take care of Julian. I had to follow the pact." "No," Graham said. "That was never your path. It was given to you, forced on you, and now it's time to give it back." A pause, and then, "Not just her." The voice coiled around them like smoke. "I want him too." Graham staggered back. The void pulsed, and a tendril of darkness lashed out, spiraling toward him. "No!" Edith screamed. She turned, not away this time, towards the void. She stepped between it and Graham, and for the first time in 4 decades, she fought back. Her hands rose, not with magic, not with fire, but with will. Her truth, her choice, the thing she had never been allowed to have. "You can have me," she said, "but not him." The darkness surged. She screamed, not in pain, but resistance and light. Not from the lamps, not from the room, but from her. Burst outward in a ring. The tendrils recoiled, The void cracked. "You dare?" "Yes," she said, voice steady now. "I dare." The blackness convulsed. Then it snapped shut. Gone. Silence. Dust floated through the broken beams of moonlight. Edith was gone. And Graham stood alone. He sat on the edge of the bed. The house no longer groaned. The silence wasn't peaceful. It wasn't empty. It was sacred, because for the first time in her life, Edith chose. And that was the end of the pact. Epilogue. The dream that was hers. Sunlight poured through the window, soft, golden, impossibly warm. Graham sat in an old wooden chair, wrapped in a wool blanket, a book resting unread in his lap. Birds outside argued over nothing. The air smelled of lavender and baked bread. Edith stood by the stove, humming a tune he'd never heard before, but somehow always knew. She was older now, so was he. There were wrinkles in her smile, grey in her hair, but none of it mattered. She turned and looked at him, and in her eyes there was no guilt, no hunger, no pact, just peace. He smiled. She crossed the room, knelt by his side, and pressed her forehead gently against his. "I'm glad you stayed," she whispered, and for a moment everything made sense. He woke. The room was dark. The bed was cold. No birds, no scent, no Edith. Just the creak of the house settling around him like old bones. He sat up, rubbing his eyes, staring into nothing. And then he said, softly, not to the room, but to memory itself, "If only you had seen it, that fire inside you. If only you'd never worn their mask. If only you'd faced your truth before it burned you alive." He lay back down, eyes open, listening to the quiet, waiting for the dream to return.